Hey, what's going on, guys? This is the SS Ultimate Goku, back with another video, and today I'm going to do Akito the Exiled Code Geass OVA series review, or episode 1, I'm sorry, review. So, first and foremost, I'm just so happy that this was finally done. Just finally dubbed, finally everything. The main character is obviously Akito, and the main female character is Leila, spelled differently than the way we would spell it. Anyways, now, first of all, there were a couple of notes of some things that I noticed that I didn't like, but they're mostly on Funimation side of it, on how they handled some things. But overall, I thought it was more in the minority nitpicking type area versus, the overall dub I thought was pretty good, at least from the first episode. But there were a couple of things that I had to note, and that was in Funimation's approach with the series. I thought the voicing was a little different. Now, this could be just because it's in Europe that they decided to go in this direction, where they kind of domesticated the languages for each character. Now, in Bandai, they didn't really do this with the Code Geass, because it was in Area 11. Most people were either Britannians or Japanese, but for the most part, all the characters sound pretty much the same as American type, sounds for English. Here they kind of, Funimation decided to expand it, I guess, because it's in Europe, and I hope it's just because it's in Europe. I hope if they ever do get to Season 3, license, that they don't go in this direction. But I think this is what they did. Leila, I thought sounded Russian, but maybe it was no, I wouldn't say it's French. I know Sabat was going in a French accent, but I think she sounded Russian, and I don't know if that's exactly what they were going for, because it seems like they were in France, because you see the later in the episode, you see the Eiffel Tower, from France. So, there were some things that just, the way they were trying to sound was really different. With Akito Hyuga, his last name's going to be more easier to remember than his first name, by the way, because I'm a Naruto fan, and you should pretty much know why at that point. Anyways, with Akito Hyuga, what really surprised me about him with his voice, now obviously this wasn't Johnny Young Bosch, but for the first couple of minutes of watching this, I thought he was trying to sound like Bosch for some reason. I don't know why, but I just thought he was trying to sound like him, and I don't know if that was supposed to be the plan, or because, it seemed like Akito was supposed to be the opposite of Lelouch, because, he's an 11, Japanese, so maybe that's what they were going for. I'm not sure, but the first 10 minutes of this, I was like, huh, okay. I didn't have an issue with it, but I don't know if it was just me that noticed that, but I don't know why they had to do that, but maybe it could have been just something they did in Japan, and they just decided to go with that route. I don't know. Also, this is, a lot of people are going to say this is nitpicking, but I think it is kind of asinine on Funimation's part to do this, and that is the logo thing. For anyone who bought the box sets for the Bandai releases, when you would see the theme songs, and like when they would have the the logos come out for Code Geass, the rebellion, Lelouch Rebellion, you would see the English text, first, and then you would have the Japanese symbols, smaller text. However, in recent reprints of the Funimation, Funimation reprinting the Code Geass English dub series, they decided to do the opposite and use the Japanese in, the bold font lettering, and then have the Code Geass Lelouch of the Rebellion down as the smaller lettering, and that's exactly what they did for this OVA series as well. They did not do it the way Bandai originally did it, which really kind of annoys me because I like it better when you have the English logos bigger, in the bigger text formation. But Funimation obviously are too cheap to do that this day and age, which I think is kind of lazy on Funimation's part. This is not, any of the voice actors or any of the directors' decision. This is Funimation that does this, that decides this, because there are many titles that they don't recycle, that they, get the original license for, and they don't do this stuff. So I guess this is something that they do for recycled titles for the most part, but I think it's kind of annoying since this is their, this is their dub, or this is, basically something, this is the first time they actually worked on something with Code Geass, and they decided not to do that, which to me was kind of annoying. Also, Suzaku's voice actor was credited in the credits. I don't know if anyone caught that, but I did catch that. Even though Suzaku doesn't actually appear in this first episode, he does appear later on in the other episodes, but he did not appear in this episode, and yet he was credited, and C2 and, aka Kate Higginson's, and even Johnny Youngbosch were not credited. That was something that really caught my attention, that they did that for some reason. I don't know why. I don't know, maybe that was a misprint or what that was. But that was something really weird. So yeah, those were a couple of notes that I noted in watching, some of the stuff that Funimation didn't do really good at. Well, not everything. I mean, like I said, depending on how they go with the direction of the series, we'll see in the future. But I don't know about the whole accent thing that they did with most of the voice actors in the series, but overall I thought it was okay because it's Europe, it's not Area 11, and it's not Britannia, so it makes sense that in the European Union that some of these characters would not sound like stereotype American English things, so voices, so it kind of makes sense that they went in that direction, but, just from my standpoint, I'm used to that in the Code Geass series, so hopefully they don't do this for Season 3. This is just for the Europe stuff here. So now the start of the whole series, or not the series, start of the episode, which is another thing I guess we can consider as a note in terms of the review, was the narration. They went through the whole thing about Area 11, how they were conquered, blah, blah, blah. If you're a Code Geass fan, you should know this already. They did this for a while in the main series with C2 as the narrator. Now, it appears they're not using C2 in this. Now, I don't know if this was a Funimation decision or if in Japan they don't use C2's voice as the narrator for this OVA series, since she isn't the main character in this series. But in the main series, she always did the narration, and Kate always would do that for the English dub. And that was something I noticed right away, and I was like, wait, was this something that in Japan C2 didn't actually do it? Like if C2's Japanese voice actor didn't actually do the narration in the OVA series, I don't have an issue with it. But if this was a Funimation thing, then I'm kind of annoyed by it. But I don't know for sure, so I'm not going to speculate. Someone probably in the comment section is probably going to clear that one up for me. But so that was the first thing to be noted, and I'm not sure who exactly was it. I I couldn't tell if it was Leila or not because I thought that's who it was at first, but then once I first heard Leila's voice, it sounded different, at least from the first time I heard it. Maybe I can go back to it and I'll see it differently, but this is literally the first time I've watched it. So, I mean, I have many more times to watch this. But so that was the first thing to note about this. Then we get into basically they start, with the battle. You see Akito, Hyuga, and he's fighting these guys. He appears to have a Geass power, but we don't really know what it is or what it entails because all he does is basically kill these people until they're all dead. And he basically destroys them all by himself. It was really cool to see a Nightmare frame. We also got to remember that this was in theaters in Japan, so this was a cinematic feel to it, which it absolutely had a cinematic feel to it. You could tell right away it had a cinematic feel to it because in Japan, this did go to theaters. Now, obviously, this will never go to theaters here in America, but that's something to note that it did have a cinematic feel to it, which was really cool to see that. So that fight would go on. Then in the next scene, you see Leila, and she's got this, Russian-type accent. She's talking about, she sees Akito, Hyuga, Akito, Hyuga, and he's, she talks about him, she admires him, because I guess he's a soldier for her. You see this commander guy, he's giving his whole schmibe about things, and eventually there's a scuffle, and because he says you failed us, you failed the mission, or whatever, and so he threatens to shoot her with a gun, and he says you're too scared, you're not gonna do it, and so he shoots it, but he already has his hand disposed and stuff. And so he says she's going to take command and stuff like that. And so eventually another guy comes in and knocks him out on the neck. And so she resumes command. And so that sets up, the things that to come later on, now that she is the commander. Now, we don't really know that much about Leila, but at this point, but it was really, really cool to see that. You don't really get that other than really Colin, really, for a girl character like that. So it was really a good thing to introduce the character, because she had even said in the scene, because I believe the commander had said that he was an 11. He was an 11, which, that's the racist stereotype of Japanese. As they are all called that in the main series, and she corrected him and said, no, they're not 11s, they're Japanese, which shows a lot of character development for Leila, to show that she's not discriminated towards hating on Japanese, even though as we later find out that she is Britannian. So there was that whole thing that went into this as well. Next thing we know, we see, the superior, she's in the office, who, what's his name? Gene Smiles, who is voiced by Christopher Sabat, and he was in a French type accent. Like I said, I mean, it's not really uncommon for this practice, since this is Europe, and so this is where the EU is like this whole divided type thing, where there's all different people here, not just people that were born in Europe. There's actual people like 11s. There are Japan people, I should say. There are Japanese people. There are pretty much anybody. There's Britannians. Europe people. Like anybody. Anybody is in pretty much this country at this point. So he talks to him, congratulates him about her promotion, and she wants to request to have more troops, and so that's how that goes. He says, "Don't worry about your concern," and stuff like that. And so then we get to another scene, which was interesting to mention. Because we had three thugs, or I don't know what you call them, but you basically had three people who basically were doing some type of trade or some deal with these these other thugs. And they threatened to shoot them, and then they, had like a countdown to like 30 seconds, and then after that, the bomb went off and it killed them all, and then they just the leader is basically dead, but he's like wounded. He's like, "Help me!" He's like, "What's your life worth?" and stuff like that. And so he has his like gun or whatever he's about to pick up, and he was like, "Who are you people? Are you people affiliated with the Black Knights?" And he's good main series reference right there. So you have that, which I thought was kind of showing these guys up. And so then you got them, he's like, "No, we're not." So we don't really know what these people are about, but he puts the gun and he kills them, and stuff like that. And so that's where that all goes to. Eventually, they go to, in the next scene, you got Akito, Hyuga, and you got Leila. Akito. Akito. I keep getting it mixed up. You got Akito and Leila, and they're at this party now, this gathering party, and eventually you see what appears to be Leila's brother, or at least that's what he says. And he says that they're because he says he's his guard or whatever, and he says then to Akito that like I'm her fiance or whatever, even though they're brothers. And so that's kind of weird. And he continues to harass Leila and like says, you're not worth marrying and stuff like that. You can be a seconds. And so then, Akito basically, says, "You want to learn how to get stabbed through a knife or whatever," because he, is threatening with knife skills or whatever there. And so they do that, and, he then backs off. Then after that, Akito and Leila go outside, and so, she basically talks, what his relationship is, that, he's, she's an adopted, child to their family, and basically goes through that she was a Britannian, that her family members were Britannians that descended to Europe, basically, and she said she was born in Europe, but both her both her parents, her legitimate parents, biological parents, I should say, were Britannians. So that was kind of interesting. She is a full-blooded Britannian, and she's part of technically royalty. Which, again, that is very interesting, because if you guys watch the Code Geass series, a lot of the Britannian full breeds that were part of the royal family hated Japanese people. They were loyal to the crown. 100% loyal to the crown. So I think it is really interesting that they show a character like Leila, who was a part of this royal family type thing, but was kind of left in the dark. And they, basically the parents who are supposed to be loyal to the crown went to Europe, went to the EU, to get away from that. And of course, had her, and of course she was abandoned eventually by these parents of hers, these biological parents of hers, and then was eventually adopted by European parents. So like I said, it is really interesting how they kind of switched that. And so you could see that not all Britannians are like that, and they kind of, showed, that with what, other Britannians can go through, which was really cool and a really good change, because they didn't really express that more in the main series. So I was really intrigued by that. And so basically they said that, well, the foster brother can marry Leila because they're foster brothers and sisters, and so they wanted the foster parents wanted her to marry him because I guess, they can, have royalty, I guess, by having, someone marry into royalty, basically, which she is, because she's like a full breed descent from Britannia, even though she was born in Europe. Which again brings me back to the point about the whole Russian accent. Because she was born, I'm guessing, in Russia, because she has a Russian accent for some reason. It's still kind of weird because both her parents were Britannian. So you would think that she would sound more English, but they gave her more of a Russian accent in the EU, even though really Russia doesn't really exist in this universe. It's the EU, but the EU is a democratic country, so I guess they could go by that logic that, well, there are multiple different languages / people that are in this country, and that's why, they have these different accents in Europe. But again, that was just something really to notice about this, really. Most importantly. So then we get into really the next scene, which this is basically, you got Akito driving in a car. And earlier I think I forgot to leave this out. There was an earlier scene where Akito, was, after the first opening battle, he asked for a ride, and they said, "Oh, you're an 11. Okay, we'll give you a ride as long as you ride in the back with it, with the nightmare frame." So I mean, there was that whole stereotype thing too, with, oh, you're, even though we're in Europe, you're still an 11, so you're an outcast still. So even though he's a soldier, for Europe, keep that in mind. So there's still that going on, even in Europe. So then they show him again in a different nightmare frame, and he's once again in the back, ready to go. And then you got this car with, the smiles, Gene Smiles, with Leila in the back, who's the commander. You got those two in the back, or not in the back. They're in the car together, and then you have basically the three thugs from earlier that I talked about that killed those people after the they didn't want to trade with them anymore, I guess, or whatever. They double crossed them. We still don't really know anything about them. And so then we get into this whole thing with them fight, or they wanted to basically capture them, so they put bombs in the car, or bomb off the car, and so they, Leila pushed Jean out, and then Leila got out the car before it exploded. But because of that, the girl was able to put a sword to him and says, "Let's see what happens now," or whatever, with the sword. And then after that, you got Akito basically, what he did was he improvised. He lost his nightmare frame, but he was able to still, catapult the thing on there to destroy the nightmare frame, and then was able to basically put a gun to the guys there. So there was that whole crossroad thing. They were both basically trapped, and they thought they were going to get killed, but obviously Leila doesn't want to kill 11s or Japanese people, because she doesn't want to discriminate towards them, which is really cool. We got a character like that. So there was that, and then we had, the guy, the bomb dude again, who he just, was like, "You better let him go," and it was like, "You want to stay safe, come join my team," So basically, these three people nearly tried to kill these guys, and so now they're offering them to join the team, and even Akito says, "We need to kill them, put them out of their misery," and he's like, "No, we can't kill them." So there was that. So then there was another scene. We don't really know too much about this scene, but we seen a guy who appears to be some commander of some Mike or something. Mike Order or something, I believe it was called. And then we get this other guy called Sheen, Sheen Hyuga, which, is kind of interesting, since he kind of has the same last name as Akito, who supposedly has no family, by the way, because, he doesn't have a family, as it's been stated. Interesting enough about this character, he used the Geass, and basically ordered the person who was in command, because the person said he would not give command to him until 5 years from now. He would not step down for 5 years. He says, "You're not ready to handle this order," or whatever. And so he uses the Geass NX6. You're weak and whatever and stuff like that. And so he basically forces him to use a sword to basically cut his head off. Very gory type scene right there, if I do say so myself. Probably one of the onlyest. That was probably one of the only really, gory scenes. They didn't really actually show it though, so it wasn't too bad. Of his head getting physically cut off, but so that happened. Didn't really get anything else from him. But that was really where that ended. They also then showed a graveyard scene, which again gets more into the characters. All the people that passed on, and they all see their spirits and stuff like that, and they that they can rest in peace. And then they all ask Akito, what is he fighting for, and he basically says to die. So I don't know exactly what. I don't know what his Geass. I mean, maybe his Geass power is that he can't die. I mean, that'd be kind of a cop out to Suzaku's power, even though Suzaku doesn't actually have a Geass. Suzaku, just was ordered by Lelouch not to die, and so he has to fulfill that. But I mean, I'm wondering what his Geass in particular is that he can't die. That could be an actual specific power for a Geass, is that you can't die. And if so, who was he contracted to? Was he contracted to C2? Was he contracted to V2? Or is there someone else that we don't know about? We'll obviously find out in the next episode, hopefully. Well, not necessarily. C2 was also contracted to Mao, and obviously, that didn't end well for Mao, now did it? So yeah, that was basically it. After they were done talking at the end, they showed Leila and looking at Akito basically, and like a little breeze I think was blowing or whatever. They basically sang a song in Japanese. Didn't know what the hell they were saying because it was obviously in Japanese. But that was basically the end. Like I said, a couple things. Also, one more thing. At the beginning of the episode, I did think it was interesting how they did have that whole Funimation disclaimer thing. I don't know if Bandai ever posted that ever on any of their DVDs. I'm just saying, like, not that they didn't have to, because they're not going to condone any of the actions that any of these characters do. So yeah, I mean, it's a serious thing. But anyways, like I said, they kind of went through the credits. A lot of good picture graphics through the credits. I don't know if they did the picture drama in this. I'm not sure. I haven't looked at it yet. But there was, from what I've heard, there was a picture drama of this OVA series, and I'm not sure if they did it. Like I said, Bandai did the first season, one of the Code Geass main series picture dramas, but they didn't do season 2. So I don't think that was ever reprinted in the reprinted for Funimation, because Funimation just only reprinted whatever Bandai did. So I don't think they ever did dub those picture dramas for season 2. Since they re-released season 2 anyways last year. But that was something that I was always curious about, because they only English dubbed one picture drama, Bandai did. So I don't know if Code Geass did that, or I don't know if Funimation did that for this series, because I heard that there were picture dramas, so I'm not sure exactly if they did it or they haven't. Like I said, I'm only on the first episode. We still got 4 more to go, as well as extra little stuff, I guess, that are included as well. But overall, I thought this was a very good paced episode. They did show some highlights for the previews for the next episode, which, says coming in 2013, which I just cringe at, because 2013 was years ago, people. Like, you know what I mean? That was over with. We're just getting it right now. Excuse me, English dubbed. I'm like, but they showed previews of C2 and Suzaku. I don't think they showed Lelouch, but they did show Suzaku and they did show C2, so they will be appearing in the next episode, which will be really good to look forward to. But like I said, I don't know exactly why Suzaku was credited in this, or Suzaku's voice actor was credited in this episode, even though he actually isn't in this episode in particular. But I was thinking about the whole preview thing, but then they showed C2, so I was like, okay, well, why didn't Cake get credited then? Like, well, what are we doing here? Like, So, I don't exactly know what that was done for. But yeah, those were the couple of things. Overall, aside the nitpicking type things, everything pretty much I thought was really good and well done. And I'd like to know what you guys think of this first episode. Like I said, I'm doing the reviews individually episodes, because these were technically movies. At least in Japan they were. And, well, it's much easier to review them episode by episode anyways to begin with. So that's how I'm going to do it. Let me know what you guys think, and what do you guys think? If you haven't watched all the episodes yet, please do not put spoilers on there because I don't want to know. I'm going to be reviewing each episode individually after I watch them all. It's been really hard this week because I had to work, one, as I said in my unboxing, 2 days late because they didn't ship it to me right away like they should have, even though I pre-ordered it back in March. For some reason, Funimation didn't send it to me like they should have, a week before it came out. But they did send it to me with a 2-day shipping type thing and got it to me 2 days after the 27th. Its official releasing date. They got it to me on the 29th, but I was working, so I couldn't really watch it until now. So, yeah, that's why I'm kind of late on this. So blame Funimation, guys. Don't blame me. They didn't ship it to me right away. So, yeah, I could have already been starting to review this already. Let me know what you guys think, and let me know what you guys think of the first episode. How do you think the English dub first episode Funimation did? How do you think they handled things that you thought they did wrong, or is there things you think they did right? I kind of noted my whole take on this, but I also would like to hear other people's take on how they did it. Overall, I thought it was really good. It was a difference, but I thought it was good. I do like Leila and I do like Akito. I think they're really, really interesting overall. And I really do like Leila right now. From this first episode, it was really changed, and it was really cool to see a full breed Britannia be like that. So it was really cool to see that, and see someone like that. I mean, we kind of get it with, Millie Ashford, but Millie Ashford was kind of pulled away from the royal family because of, them questioning the crown. So their status was kind of irrelevant at that point. So it was kind of really cool to see that difference there. But I'd like to know what you guys think. If you like this video or any of my other videos, please subscribe. And that's about it, guys. I am the SS Ultimate Goku, and I'm out of here. Peace.